Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Ash and Greg from the Pursuit of the Paranormal Podcast. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, Michaela, I'm good. I'm not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Hiya.
You all right, Greg?
Yeah,
Well,
all good. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. I've got lots of things to ask you about. I've been listening to your podcast for a while now. And so I've got lots and lots of questions, so I hope you don't mind that. But I always start with one particular question, and I'll ask you both this, which is, what initially made you interested in the paranormal? So let's have Greg.
Okay, so when I was growing up, I used to get freaked out watching programs by someone called Arthur C. Clarke. He used to have a program, I think it was called World of Mysteries. And I used to watch weird stuff on there when I was younger, and it used to just freak me out. There was one particular one about poltergeists, and I think it just from there, it spurred my interest on, and then moved into UFOs and all that kind of stuff. But primarily it started with that, and I used to get scared watching those programs. I was only 8 or 9, so
yeah, I remember that program. It was really spooky.
yeah.
What about you, Ash?
Well, my main interest has always been in UFO side of the paranormal, and that stems back to a UFO sighting that I had when I was 10 years old. So we had this unusual sighting, and then from there I sort of got interested in trying to find out what it was that I saw, and I started watching documentaries on VHS from the library that I could rent out, and then X-Files started getting popular, so I started watching that, and then that's just led to basically a lifetime of interest and looking in the skies for UFOs. And then the last couple of years been sort of getting more into the paranormal after, again, another experience about 3 years ago, like a ghost experience, and then so that's opened me up to the other side of the paranormal, whereas before then it was just UFOs.
Yeah.
After that experience and the ghost side of things a couple of years ago, I'm now open to the whole paranormal realm, really.
Okay, so, well, I've got to ask you then, what was the UFO sighting?
So it was in 1997. I know the year, know how old it was, because it's when Halley's Comet was visible, or the Hale-Bopp Comet, whichever one it was, in 97. And it was visible quite a few months in the sky, and we'd go out quite a lot when it was a clear sky and have a look at the comet. And it's just one of the nights we were out in the streets, probably 4 or 5 adults and all the kids, and we look at the comet, and all of a sudden we all saw what looked like triangle shape. So looked like 3 stars in a triangle shape, but they're just moving from one part of the sky all the way across the sky to the other. It took about 45 seconds to go across the whole sky. Wow. It was a clear triangle shape with 3 lights in its corner. And that we were all like, all the adults were like, we don't know what that was, wasn't a plane. And since then I've just been wanting to find out what it was and what else is up there.
Wow, gosh. So do you think it was watching the comet then?
Possibly. It seems to come from that direction in that part of the sky. That's how we noticed it at first. It was like lower than the stars. And you could see like it was a clear, you couldn't really see the colour of it, but you could tell that there was sort of an outline. So like the sky behind where it was travelling got darker when it was travelling, like when we were watching it. So yeah, it's definitely something unusual. And before then I had sort of no interest, and then since then it's just been wanting to find out more. And that's my only UFO sighting. That was 24 years ago. I'm still waiting for the second one.
And what was your ghostly encounter more recently?
So I was in a local pub in Northwich, and called the Lord Eldon Inn, and we were just there playing a poker night. One night we used to go every week and play on the poker night, and I was just sat at the poker table. There was about 5 of us in this room, and where we played poker, it was like in the back room, so no reason to come in there unless you were playing poker. You couldn't go beyond this room. There's no other door out, no toilets or anything. So it's just basically the one door in and out.
Yeah. So
one of the guys that was playing left and said bye to everyone and left. And a couple of minutes later, in my peripheral vision, I could see the door. And I saw the door open and somebody walk in. And I thought it was this guy coming back in, he'd left something or whatever. So I saw this guy walk in through the door and come and stand behind me. and I heard him say something. Like, we were playing poker, I wasn't really paying much attention, but no one else in the room sat at the poker table sort of reacted to him. So I didn't want to be rude to someone that's just said something to the table, because everyone seemed to be ignoring him. So I turned to look over my right shoulder, and there's no one there. So I looked like around the table. I was like, "Did Dave just come back in?" He's like, "No, he's coming." Because like one of the girls was sat opposite the door. She's like, "No one's come in." I was like, "Someone just came in and stood behind me," and I heard him. Didn't hear what he said, but just heard him say something. Like, we just sort of aware of someone being stood there. And yeah, that was it. My mate looked at me and asked if I was okay. She said to me, "You look like you've just seen a ghost." And I said, I think I just have. That was it's just clear as day. I saw someone come in, walk behind me, said something, and I looked, and there's nobody there.
Wow, that is spooky. I have to say, I had a spooky encounter in a pub in Germany once, where I saw a ghost dog. And I didn't even realise it was a ghost dog until it walked through the closed door. I sort of sat and went, ah! But have you had any ghostly encounters, Greg?
Several. I belong to a paranormal group as well. I was doing a podcast. So I've, over the years, sort of been involved in investigations and seen some strange things. But one of the main ones is I was at the Ancient Ram Inn on an investigation, and we were sat down doing a Ouija board, sort of in one of the main rooms, and all of a sudden the Ouija board from underneath, we were sat in a circle away from the sort of the table as such, and from underneath, like the Ouija board just shot up into the air as though somebody had whacked it from underneath. So that was quite weird. I've been into a house that was owned by my grandparents. My granddad had died, and my nan was just going into a care home. So they were selling her house. So we were looking at clearing out the house and getting it ready for sale. And I said to my mum, "Would you mind if I set up the camera and my voice recorder and just have a go round and just see if I can pick up anything?" Because my granddad and my great nan and an uncle died in the house. So I was in one of the bedrooms, which was the main bedroom. So my grandparents were in there. My granddad actually died in that room, and as we came in, my daughter came in with me, and we closed the door behind us. Door opened almost immediately afterwards. So my daughter looked round the door and closed it again and walked over to me. She was a bit freaked out, so she said, "I just want to go." So I was like, "Yep, off you go." And as soon as she said she wanted to go, the door opened before she even got to it. So I went and closed it, and again, not really thinking anything too weird was happening, and then it opened again. So I closed it, and it was kind of like a weird old house, so it was quite stiff, the door, so for it to open was quite weird anyway. And I was doing some EVPs and whatnot, and I sort of said thank you for your time, and I said I'm off now, thanks for your time. I'll listen to the voice recorder and see if you've answered any of my questions. And I walked off out the room. Upon reviewing the footage afterwards, as I'd said goodbye and I was leaving, an orb or some kind of bright light appears on the camera. I didn't see it, and goes in like a sweeping motion around the room and out the door, and then moments later I follow the same path. It's a bit like Donnie Darko, the film, where he sort of projects a thing out of his stomach and it goes in the route that he's going to take. It was very similar to that, but yeah. So that was quite weird. I've got loads from where we've been doing the paranormal investigations, part of our team. So
it sounds very exciting. Wow. Do you ever feel scared? Because I find that I often don't feel scared when I have these paranormal experiences. I just think, did that really happen?
So no, I don't. I thought I would do the first time I went on like an investigation, but I was weirdly quite calm. The only time I've got really freaked out was when me and Ash went to the Castle Ring at Cannock Chase.
Oh yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and that was the only time that I've really felt like I didn't really want to be there towards the end. Ash was feeling the same. Abby, who was with us, where we were like, I think we should just go now. And that's the first time that I felt really quite weird and freaked out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Do you get scared, Ash?
No, not generally. When they had that experience in the pub, it was more like a bit of a shock, like what's just happened. I didn't feel scared. I just felt like I just don't know what's happened. Going on investigations, I started sort of doing that the last 6 months or so, going into the more of the paranormal investigation side of things, like with Cannock Chase with Greg. And last week I went down to Suffolk and Rendlesham Forest and around there.
Oh yes, I've got some questions about that
later. Cool, yeah, I won't go into it too much now. But yes, but I felt like generally I can be a bit of a get quite freaked out quite easy on my own, and like in the middle of the forest or in the middle of somewhere at night on my own. I can get a bit on edge. But when I've been doing the investigation stuff, I've been pretty calm and just felt comfortable. Apart from that time where, like Greg said at Cannock Chase, where it just felt like something was telling us to leave. Like it's like we weren't welcome. That's what it felt like.
Oh,
in that area. So we just hightailed it out of there pretty much.
We did.
So, am I right in thinking that you both do the podcast from different locations?
Yeah, I'm in Manchester and Greg's in Oxford. Sure.
Right. So, how did all that happen then? How did you start the podcast from completely different places together?
Okay, so I'll say it then. So me and Ash has got a history of playing poker and working at casinos, and I've got a history of playing online poker as well. And we were admins of the same poker group on Facebook. So we would just, there'd be an admin chat and we were just talking about people on the page and what we were going to do as a page and whatnot. And one day Ash had put up his website address about UFOs. I was like, oh, I'm into UFOs. So we just sort of briefly chatted, and I talked about the paranormal group, and then I messaged Ash and said, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Do you fancy doing one? And literally within 2 weeks we had a website, we were up on Facebook, we had the first podcast released, and yeah, it's
the rest is history.
Nearly a year down the line, yeah.
Before that, we hadn't even really spoke much, even in the poker chat, like because there's about 6 or 7 admins, so we only sort of really passing talk. It's literally barely spoke before this, and then now we've spoken like 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah. Wow, that was not the answer I was expecting. That's really interesting. Oh gosh, a paranormal podcast made out of gambling. I love it.
Yeah, and we've only met each other once in real life. It's
really?
At Cannock Chase, yeah. For the first time.
At Cannock Chase, yeah, that was the
wow,
first time.
So you've got a really good rapport together. My next thing that I was going to say actually was that you both seem very tech savvy. I've been really impressed with the kind of the output that you have and the music and all that sort of stuff. I sit here doing my tiny little podcast in envy going, how do they learn all those things? So are you really into all the tech stuff, or is it just one of you that's more into the tech than the other?
Well, Greg kind of sorted out the intro stuff and sort of the editing. I used to do the editing, but they've had issues with computers, so Greg's kind of took over. But I mean, it's just been a learning process. When we first started, it would take us 2 hours to record 15 minutes. It took us weeks to, but now we've sort of just been like, we've done basically an episode every week since last December. So we just sort of gone with it, learned as we've gone. We still say I don't know how to fix this, or like the issue we had before we started the show, just Google it and see what happens.
Yeah, you've done really well, actually. I'm really impressed with you being able to do an episode a week. I haven't, which is probably why I haven't got very many listeners, but that's fine with me. It's just a hobby for me. But it is, you have to be really quite rigid, don't you? And make sure that it's there for the listeners about the same time every week. And I think that's probably a testament to the success that you've had over the last year.
Yeah, so we try and release it at sort of midnight on Monday night, so like just going into Tuesday. Sometimes it's normally, if it's not at that point, it's just after that we release it. And yeah, as you know, it's an absolute mission to get an episode ready. We tried to get many episodes in advance ready to go, and that's never happened. So we've been lucky enough to get a couple of episodes a week sometimes, put out some sort of bonus episodes, but we try and stick rigid to the once a week, and it is a challenge.
I think having two of us helps, because if it's like just me on my own, a lot of times I've just been, I can't be bothered. Then once you miss 1 week, you miss another week, and then you sort of just fall by the wayside. Because there's two of us, if I'm particularly busy that week, I know Greg will pick up some of the work. Greg, likewise, if Greg's busy, I'm always there to do so. So we do sort of work together on our own sometimes, just to make sure we get the interviews, get the editing done, get the episodes published. Yeah. Source new guests and new research that we're doing. But it's like a full-time job sometimes to be.
Yeah, it's a labour of love, but you seem to be reaping the benefits at the moment. So you've been nominated for the 2021 Paranormal Podcast Awards in the Alien and UFO category. Congratulations, that's brilliant. After only a year, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we were completely shocked by that, to be completely honest.
Especially with some of the names that we're up against, like some of the really, really big podcasts, just be alongside them, just like, wow, like how are we alongside these in the nominations? Like it's, but really privileged to be nominated.
Yeah. So what do you go on? You've got to blow your own trumpets now. What do you attribute your success to so far?
Well, I think because we put one out regularly, we're true to ourselves. We started off with certain subjects. We talk to each other a lot about what we're going to do in the coming weeks, but we try and do stuff that's interesting to ourselves. We try to do episodes that maybe not quite as well known. I know we've done the Enfield Poltergeist recently, but that was because we had it was coming up to the 44th anniversary. We've done one about Rendlesham Forest because it was the 40th anniversary, but most of the other episodes have been around topics, subjects, cases that not necessarily are quite so well known. So I think it's given us an opportunity to air some of the lesser known cases from things. So like our first episode was about Yowie, and like an Australian Bigfoot type cryptid, and before that I didn't even know that it existed. I've got relatives in Australia and he thought it was a chocolate bar, which it is. It is actually a chocolate bar, I know, but he wasn't aware of it as well. So it's just, I think we've been fortunate enough to speak with people and talk about subjects that are not necessarily high profile.
So how do you decide what you're going to do and who to interview? Or is it just through chatting and then you go, oh, what about this person? Should we try and get in touch with them? Or how does it work really?
So that's pretty much it. We've like a lot of time we just like reach out to people on Instagram, on Facebook, some big names. Like I always a particular book that I've read that I wouldn't mind talking to the author. Just reach out, try and get them on. But like say it's topics that we're passionate about, and it like because we want to learn as well. So if something that I wasn't interested in, then I could say that probably wouldn't really work as well, because it's something we're both interested in, passionate about, and learning more. Because like my eyes have been opened so much to so many different possibilities in the last 9 months. Some of the stuff we talk about, I wouldn't even have dreamt about. Like previously, I wouldn't even give a second thought to. Think, no, that can't exist. That can't be a thing. But the more we're talking to people, and like say, you listen to other podcasts, and I think that topic's interesting, I might try and look into it a bit deeper and sort of get another perspective on that topic that I've heard in another podcast. And we just try and reach out to different people, and some of them come on.
And I've found out, and I think from your guests you must too, that this the paranormal community are all very good at being friendly and helping each other out and saying yes to things. Do you find that as well?
Yeah. A lot of the people we've spoken to have been so nice. It's amazing to hear some of the tales that people are talking to us about, considering they don't even know us. And some people just use it as an outlet to get their story out. But a lot of the paranormal community have been really helpful to us, and we've made quite a few close sort of contacts that can help us out with sending footage to, sending videos to have a little look at and get their opinion. And so we've been really lucky. So
do you get quite a lot of people emailing or sending you voice messages and videos and things? Have you got kind of loads of stuff coming in from people going, help, this is happening, sort of thing?
Yeah, we from time to time we do get quite a few accounts coming in, I guess would be the word. Some, like I say, pretty open-minded. Some of the stuff we get is coming in, I'll sit there and just like, my mind's just been blown. If like anything of this, if 1% of what this guy has just told us is true, then like the world has changed. And some, obviously a lot of them are more usual stuff. People send the videos of orbs, videos of UFOs, just giving us accounts of like noises in the house and stuff like this. And sometimes you ask for help, sometimes you just want to tell someone. They don't want to be on the show, they don't want to publicise it, they just want to tell somebody. Yeah. And they found that they can just have basically an ear to listen to the story, which is what a lot of people just need, which we're happy to take on and just talk to anyone that messages us.
Yeah. I think it's really important actually, because if somebody does see something really weird, a lot of people can't talk to their family or friends or work colleagues about it because they're worried that they're going to be found to be crazy or something. And I've found that a lot of people, when I speak to them, because I always pester people, everybody I've nearly ever met, I'll say, have you ever seen anything weird, or have you seen a ghost? And they always come back with something, and then they say, I've never told anybody that before because I didn't want to appear like I was a nutter. So it's a really important thing actually. It's almost like paranormal therapy.
It is, and and some of the people that we've spoken to, because we do it via Zoom and we can see their faces a lot of the time, it's quite an eye-opener that the listeners of the podcast don't see, but you can actually see the sort of the anguish on the people's faces when they're telling you their account of things, and that doesn't come across necessarily in the podcast, especially when they're talking about a subject that and an experience that seems to be completely alien, for want of a better phrase, to the norm. But yeah, you can see the pain in people's faces when they're talking about stuff, and it's nice for them to be able to talk to us, and it does get, like you say, a bit of therapy for them sometimes, that they're just able to share it. I know you mentioned and asked about popularity and why do you think we've been successful or been popular, should I say. We never make a judgment on the podcast. We just let the person tell the story. We don't wrap up at the end and say, oh, I did believe that, I didn't believe that, or that was fake, or it wasn't an orb, it was something else. We just literally have the conversation and let people make their own mind up. Because some of the stuff we've heard and people have talked to us about, like I said, if only 1% of it was true, even then it's absolutely mind-blowing.
Now my next question on my list is quite a big question really. You cover a lot of subjects in your show, which I really like. So each episode has almost got something for everybody. So there's a lot of variety. And so you are interested in UFOs and ghosts and cryptids. So I'm going to say this to Ash first. If you could go anywhere in the world to hunt for a particular UFO, cryptid, or ghost, where would you like to go?
Well, I think, as I mentioned not too long ago, it's been a lifetime dream of mine to get down to Suffolk, down to Rendlesham Forest for 20 odd years. And last week, I was able to get down there, and that would, even though I've just been there, that would be my location. Just
wow,
the history,
still,
still just the history of the area, not just with the UFO Rendlesham incident, which is the most famous one.
Yeah.
But there's like thousands of years of paranormal history, with tales going back, like, say, hundreds of years. The whole area, Suffolk, Norfolk, is just, I think it's known as the most haunted county or something like that, because the lore that goes back. And just to explore and be in these places where these stories have been around for hundreds of years, and just like being in Rendlesham Forest, where the Rendlesham UFO incident happened, was just, it felt like it was a privilege to be there. And now I'm back home in Manchester. If I could be anywhere looking for UFOs, looking for any of the spirits or other things that I've been seeing down in Suffolk, I would want to be back there tomorrow. That's where I would choose to go.
Right. So you plan on returning then, do you?
Definitely.
Definitely.
100%.
Even despite those dangerous wild chihuahuas. Now, I can't say that without asking you to explain to the listeners what this story is. And I realise I do not want to belittle the fantastic Rendlesham Forest, but I've so enjoyed listening to your podcast. So can you just tell us a little about the wild chihuahua incident?
So this happened on the last night of our trip.
It is fun.
This was a week ago today, actually. No, a week ago tomorrow. No, it isn't. It's a week ago tonight. So this happened literally almost a week to the day when we were recording this. So we've been doing a nighttime investigation in middle of Rendlesham Forest. We're in a bit of forest that's in between the two RAF bases, the Bentwaters and Woodbridge.
Yeah.
Been there for a couple of hours, done a couple of EVP sessions, had the camera set up, stargaze. It's been a beautiful night. No clouds whatsoever. Really dark. You can see the Milky Way there. It's a beautiful place in the middle of this forest. Nothing around us whatsoever. No lights, no other cars, no other people. Just us and the wildlife. And nothing happened. We didn't see anything. We just sort of enjoyed being in the forest. So we headed back to the car, about a mile walk from where we were in the forest. Headed back to the car. Felt completely fine. Like I said before, I felt really comfortable. Didn't feel creeped out. There's only two of us. And in them situations where I'm in the middle of the forest on our own, at night, it can be a bit vulnerable, feel a bit like on edge, but I felt completely fine the whole time.
Yeah.
Then we get back to the car, start packing up, and just started getting this feeling of really being uncomfortable. You started feeling the atmosphere change. It just felt like I didn't want to be here anymore. So I was like, with my partner Jamie, I was like, let's just pack the car up and just go. Got in the car, locked the doors. That's how like uncomfortable I felt. Like it felt like something was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I put the headlights on, start driving out, and I just had the urge just to leave. Like something was like similar to what I had at Castle Ring kind of chase, where it was the feeling was just, let's just get out of here. Just don't want to be in this location anymore.
Yeah.
So we just thought I was going to leave, driving in the car. So we start driving out. I hear some noise on the top of the roof, like something had either fell off or fell onto the car, but there's nothing around at all. We had a quick look, couldn't find anything. Carried on driving, and it's these country roads. You haven't seen a car, a person, a light, nothing for a long time while driving. All of a sudden, I've got my high beams on, obviously these country roads that are all twisty-turny. So all of a sudden, there's a chihuahua in the middle of the road. We are in the middle of nowhere, and there's a chihuahua just in the middle of the road. It runs to the side, stays there, and my partner's like, was that a chihuahua? I was like, I think that's a chihuahua. And like my dash cam recorded our reaction to it, which is what you're referencing because we did it on the show this week.
Yeah.
And we played the dash cam footage of us reacting to seeing this chihuahua. And yeah, it's just the most surreal moment of just like Greg said on the podcast. Like if it was a bigger dog, a working dog, like Alsatian German Shepherd, something that you might see on a farm, that might be from somewhere nearby. Maybe not be too unusual to have seen a dog, but to see a chihuahua, a little tiny thing in the middle of the road, literally in the middle of nowhere, miles from anywhere.
Yeah.
Really, really weird. And 99% of the time, I'd have stopped and tried to help and tried to get in the car, whatever, try and find out where it came from. Because we had this urge to leave, I just didn't want to stop. I felt like this was put there to make me stop.
Yeah, like something was tricking you, sort of.
Yeah, like even on the dash cam, like we talk about, like when you hear dash cam footage, you hear me say if it even existed in the first place. Like straight away, I was thinking, did that just happen? Did this dog actually exist?
That's so random, isn't it? A chihuahua
really, really
of all dogs.
Of all dogs. I don't even know anyone's got a chihuahua. It's just really.
Yeah. So either there's a poor chihuahua starving to death in Rendlesham Forest, or there was some kind of scary entity trying to trick you into stopping, that is really quite freaky.
Yeah, and like I was fighting the natural urge to help against the unnatural urge to get the hell out of there, and I followed the flight side of my body at the time just to get out of there.
Wow, that's brilliant. I love that story. It was brilliant. It was just when your partner was going, wild chihuahua, it just cracked me up. It was brilliant. So I'm going to ask the same question to you, Greg. If you could go anywhere in the world to search for any type of paranormal thing, where would you go and what would it be?
Would it have to be present day? So could I go?
Yeah, you can go anywhere you want.
So I'd love to go back to 1977 to have a look around the Enfield house.
Yeah.
That would be an absolute dream of mine because it was so well documented, just to cast eyes on the exact things that were happening. So that'd be for sort of the paranormal side of things. And I do have an interest in UFOs as well. It's more Ash's sort of expertise and an area of skill, but I've been fortunate enough to go out to Vegas a couple of times, and I've been out to Area 51 twice, and I would love to. We've only been there sort of for about an hour at a time, and I would just love to do an overnight sky watch from the sort of where the camo dudes are at Area 51. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I'd love to go there too.
One other place, I'm being greedy now. One other place is I would love to go to see John Edmonds at a Stardust Ranch. We've done an episode on him, and that place, that's like the 1% that Ash was saying. If 1% of that actually happened or is happening, mind blowing. So I'd love to go and spend like a weekend with John because he's such a nice guy, and just to see if
anything happens.
Yeah.
Because I feel the same about Skinwalker Ranch, but to be absolutely truthful, I don't know so much about Stardust Ranch. But you were saying that you thought Stardust Ranch was actually more interesting than Skinwalker. Why is that? So
Skinwalker, I mean, a lot of people know the story about Skinwalker Ranch, and it's loads of films about it. There's loads of books about it. It's been talked about a lot, and there's a TV program out about it on Discovery Channel where they sort of drip feed each episode, and not a lot's happened, but at the end of each episode something seems to catch you as a cliffhanger for the next episode. Whereas Stardust Ranch is like Skinwalker Ranch on acid. This guy has claimed to have killed 19 aliens with a samurai sword.
Wow.
And he's sent off bits of flesh to have it DNA tested. His wife gets abducted on a regular basis, and he has to chain her to the bed. So it's just, and portals open up. He's shot at UFOs with an AK-47, and the whole story. Men in Black, but not like your typical Men in Black. He's having police officers turn up with like black tape over their badges, and so that's
really crazy stuff. So has he said what's come back from the DNA of the flesh and the skin and things?
Yeah, it came back. You can see the results on his website, and sent off to this university and it came back as like some sort of not a known substance. It's like a combination of like plant and sort of animal DNA, but no actual like proper DNA. And interestingly, and this is like fact, is the guy that did DNA testing died like not long after this these DNA. He's like a university professor where he sent it off to university, and then the guy that did the testing, the scientist, he died. So it's all like sort of these stories that come in where like tales that happen when people go missing and people that sort of know something disappear. And interesting as well about Stardust is this was from before sort of Skinwalker got popular. Yeah. And John makes a claim that Bob Bigelow tried to buy his ranch
as well,
like before, and then because he couldn't buy Stardust Ranch, he then went and bought Skinwalker. And John Edmonds, who owns Stardust, his claim is that he's basically taken what's happened at Stardust and had it happen at Skinwalker. That's like the claim that John has, that he got like that's where it all came from, was from his ranch before Skinwalker.
So that he actually took it and things are happening at Skinwalker, or that Skinwalker is a fake Stardust?
Well, I think from John's opinion, I think he's basically took what's happened at Stardust and made it happen at Skinwalker. Right, yeah. But again, it's open to what people's beliefs are.
Yeah.
And like I say, you can't deny some of the stuff that's happened at Skinwalker from like Bob Bigelow and some of the more newer stuff as well.
And the shapeshifters, I find them fascinating. The shapeshifters that are supposed to be there.
Yes, John at Stardust Ranch, he claims to be in regular contact with multiple races and species of alien as well. And he talked to us all about that. That a lot of them are celebrities. He wouldn't name them, but he said you would know who these people are. They don't go around telling you that they are who they are, but he interacts with a lot of them. He hates the grey aliens, and they're the evil ones, and he's the one that goes around killing them. Yes, absolutely
incredible
story. Yeah,
but he's not changed his story for decades.
No,
always said this has happened and stopped by his guns.
And when you were talking about getting guests for the show, it took. I wanted to get John on the show for months and months and months, and it took about 6 months for us to get him to even get him to reply to a message. I was almost stalking his Facebook page and commenting when I could, just to get him to come on. It all happened. He like messaged me and said, "Yeah, let's do it now." And I was like, "Oh, I need a couple of hours." So I had to get Ash involved, and then we're like, oh my god, going to be chat to John. And so we managed to get it, and he doesn't have proper internet. He's like got a landline in an office in Arizona, and we had to figure out how we were going to record it, and we had like hours to try and figure out all the
try and figure it out. Yeah.
Wow,
so how exciting. He sounds very much down the kind of David Icke sort of path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John's very matter of fact, and he doesn't, like Ash said, he doesn't change his story at all. It is what it is, and he says, if you don't believe me, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So he has his belief about what's happening, and if you don't believe him, he's not fussed. He just tells his account of things, and I think we both found him to be very genuine in what he was saying. He definitely believes what he's saying. And he's never once changed his story, despite pressure. I think he's had ghost adventures. They've done investigations at Stardust Ranch and found weird stuff. And so
wow. That's really, I'm going to have to look into that now. That's fascinating. So
it's great.
Staying on the idea of UFOs now, I've got a couple of little questions here, she says, which will probably take about half an hour each to talk about. I mustn't talk about everything in the world, but it's hard not to, because it's so interesting talking to people who are interested in the same things. Mm-hmm. As you can imagine, being a school teacher, I don't get much of that at work. So People are seeing and reading into all sorts of strange photos that we're seeing from the Mars rover. Do you think the Mars rover is actually seeing, aliens, or do you think it's just the cameras playing tricks on the eyes? Ash, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. It's there's nothing. I don't think there's anything on Mars, not on the surface anyway. It's a lot of time it's just shadows and on the rocks and like even camera artifacts from like the sun or whatever. And people try to find stuff in pictures that aren't there. There's certain people on websites that will look for stuff, and even though it's clearly nothing, they'll try and make it out to be something else for whatever reason. But when I've seen a lot, I've seen a lot of these pictures and claims that are coming out, and it's no, I don't think there's anything to it personally. I think it is a barren planet. I don't think if there's something there millions of years ago, whether there's underground, obviously we don't know, but on the surface at least there's nothing to. Like take the face on Mars, for example, that was like became quite popular in the 90s, where it looked like a human face on Mars.
Yeah.
But when you look at it from a different angle with different shadows, it's nothing. It's just mountains. Yeah. I think that's just how these objects look like. There's a soldier with a gun or bases and stuff like you see the buildings or bridges. To me, it's just shadows and rocks. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Greg, what do you think about the Pentagon coming out and saying basically, oh, we have actually seen UFOs and the Tic Tac videos? What's your view on all of that?
I find it fascinating. I do find that it's pushed it into more mainstream. Me and Ash talk about this kind of stuff, and even though it's more Ash's sort of expertise, from like a normal person, I call myself, dealing with and talking about UFO stuff, I think it's been great. I know they come out, they didn't really say a massive amount apart from we don't know what a certain percentage is.
Yeah.
It's not foreign adversaries. We need more money to investigate it properly. But I think that speaks volumes. They haven't come out and said it's swamp gas or we know what it is. They've actually, a part of them have said we're not entirely sure what some of it is. And I find that better than saying it's nothing. So clearly there is something out there, and I think with the amount of footage that's out there now, the Tic Tac one is a classic, like a modern classic, really, and I think that has really pushed it out to the masses, and I think the Pentagon report has again pushed sort of disclosure closer, but I don't think we'll ever necessarily get that. But
yeah, do you think it could be possible? I'll ask Ash this one. Could it be possible that there are maybe even private businesses out there who have managed to engineer craft that are even unknown to the highest government levels? Or do you think it is actually something from, as in an alien type craft that we're seeing?
I think in terms of like private businesses, I think on that side of things, it would be government funded private businesses.
Yeah.
I think the government will know if anyone's creating these crafts or like I say, have craft or back engineering alien craft, as you say. I think because once it goes to a private company, it then doesn't fall under freedom of information. It can all be kept private.
Yeah.
So when they like just give the work to Bigelow or Northrop or whoever they're going to use to develop these planes, these crafts, it'll all be kept private. And I'm like I say, with the reports in there coming out saying UFOs are real, but it'd be full disclosure. If they did say we've got these crafts, if they then release these crafts in the future that are either theirs or they're found from somewhere else, I think there's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be questions because the government's lied basically for 70 years. They've always denied everything. They said they haven't investigated it, and then 10 years later, oh yeah, we were investigating it. So when it comes to them actually giving us full, actual, proper information, not just, oh, we don't know what it is. When they give us something that's actually tangible, there's going to be doubt, because how do you know they're not lying then?
Yeah.
They've been lying in the past, so why are they suddenly telling the truth? If disclosure, in whatever form that may be, comes, how can we even then know that this is the truth? Because why now suddenly can we trust the US government to tell us what's happening?
Yeah.
So I think someone has these crafts. I do believe that there has been crash recoveries in the past of non-human is probably the best word.
Yeah.
And I do believe we do have these vehicles somewhere, but I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah. I mean, I know that people often sort of muse about the fact that it would be quite incredible for creatures to come from millions of light years away, maybe through black holes or wormholes, things like that. And I know that it's quite a popular belief. Some people believe, without without me sounding like the ancient aliens man, some people believe that actually they've been here the whole time. I mean, obviously there seems to be quite a lot of evidence dating right back towards the Mayans and before, and they've actually been here the whole time, and they actually managed to hide, I guess the word might be, under the sea and in mountains and things like that. What do you think about that sort of theory?
Yeah, I think this is something that we sort of discussed as well, and that's why I sort of say non-human rather than saying like from space or from extraterrestrial, because we don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
There's a couple of train of thoughts that we've sort of talked about that, like I say, 12 months ago I'd have been like, what are you talking about? Whereas now I'm like, oh, that could be a thing. Like I say, under the water, lots like with the TikTok videos, that was based around something being seen in the water initially. There's been lots of reports of UFOs coming out of the water or going into the water, where they come USOs. So I think there's definitely a possibility that there's, like I say, the amount of water that's on the planet is ridiculous, and the caves that are underwater and the mountains that are under the water, it could be anywhere. And one of the other possibilities that we've talked on the show quite a bit is interdimensional, where they're here, but we're just not aware of them unless they show them to us.
Yeah.
It's like 2D presences aren't aware of us in the 3D world, but we can see them. As you go up the dimensions, they can see us, but we can't see them unless they make themselves visible, which could explain some of the sightings. There's a trickster element that some people talk about, where they like playing a joke, where they be like joyriding creatures or ultra humans from a different dimension, where they playing a joke on us and they make themselves appear so they can see us for a minute and then go again. So like having a play around with us because they can.
Do you know, I really like that theory actually, and I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that could explain lots of other things as well. I've got two, I know you were talking to Craig Bryant, and he's got a story similar to one that my friend's got. And when I told him the story, he said, I've got a friend who's told me that story as well, and it was practically word for word. And it was basically about the fact that these two different people at different times in different places both saw in their houses, they caught a small kind of almost like a gnome or elf, brown kind of wizened elf type creature in their house. And when they walked in and saw it, the creature literally kind of unzipped the ether and disappeared and kind of zipped it back down again. And these two separate people said exactly the same thing. And I find that absolutely mind-boggling. Have you ever seen, there's an American program called Fringe? Have you ever watched it? You should watch it, because they it's kind of like a quirky paranormal kind of detective program with this kind of mad scientist, and it's brilliant. And they are kind of thinking about the theory of parallel dimensions, and what would happen if this happened and that happened. But that sort of thing absolutely boggles my mind. My mind can't seem to understand how that would work.
Yeah, I think the parallel dimensions, parallel universes is something that we have spoken to a few people about over the months we've been doing the podcast, and it is something that seems to come up, and it would explain a lot of paranormal stuff. Some of the EVPs could be interdimensional people talking, and you're actually hearing them, so there's not a ghost as such in a particular area, that it's another dimensional being. And like Ash said, I wouldn't have been open to any of that last year, but now we've been talking to more and more people, and there's a lot of links between UFOs and the paranormal, that it's not actually beyond the realms of possibility in my head anymore that wasn't a thing, but definitely could be.
I'd say it sort of makes sense, like when you actually put the pieces together. It makes a lot more sense that something can come from like different parallel dimensions that we're not aware of than something traveling these billions of miles that's going to take millions of years to come from the nearest star system or whatever. I think it just makes more sense that you are already here in one way or another. Now, it's like Greg started to explain. And like with the story told then about like sort of unzipping the world and disappearing. That like explain portals and things. If they're able to utilize portals, if they're advanced, whatever, then it would explain a hell of a lot of things that I've seen all over the world.
Yeah, definitely. And it would explain all the missing objects in my house as well, which I've got lots of stories about. I started off thinking it was just me, but there were two particular incidents that happened right in front of my eyes. Basically, one of them was, to cut it really short, that my slippers went missing and reappeared right in front of my eyes. And I literally just stood there going, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. This doesn't happen. And I ended up stood there talking to the ether, as if somebody was in the room with me that I couldn't see. But it really has opened my eyes. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
And that again, that sort of comes back to the trickster element, where they can play tricks or sort of play with us. They steal your slippers. Like, so that's what they're doing. It's like someone having a laugh on their side of their universe or their dimension.
I think I would have got carted off to the loony bin if anybody had heard me, though, because I was stood in the middle of the bedroom pointing my finger going, I saw you, I saw you, you cannot tell me that I'm going mad, I saw that. Wow. Shouting out. Right, so just before we finish then, we've touched on it a couple of times, but I am really, really interested, and I'm going to direct this towards Greg, I'm really interested in poltergeists. And of course, the three most famous cases are the Enfield poltergeist, 30 East Drive, and the Battersea poltergeist. One in the 50s, one in the 60s, one in the 70s. But all centering around sort of pre-pubescent or girls going through puberty. And I just find that so interesting. I was actually listening to, I don't know if you've listened to the Danny Robbins podcast on BBC Sounds as well. And obviously the one that you did too. So Greg, what do you think is going on? What is a poltergeist? What's going on there?
That is a good question. So I do think it can be a manifestation of the energies that are happening in that particular household. So like you mentioned, it all seems to center around and all begins when a girl of the house starts to go through puberty. So they tend to be between 13 and 16 years old. Some of them have had there doesn't appear to be like a father figure issue, because the Enfield case, the dad wasn't in the picture in the house, but Batsy one there was. But it always seems to be a spirit of a gentleman. We were talking about it on the podcast yesterday, that it seems to be a gentleman, or like tries to be this almost stalkerish kind of activity. It starts off with banging and knocking, and then escalates right up. And with the Enfield one, this character was talking through Janet on the sofa, which, when you look at the documentaries on YouTube, is particularly disturbing. But I think it's either a genuine spirit that's come from somewhere, or it's just the manifestation of this sort of weird hormonal energy in the house. I don't really know. It's so fascinating, but there always seems that common theme is it's the prepubescent or girl that's going through puberty. The poltergeist appears to always be a man. I don't know why that is.
It is fascinating.
So fascinating.
With East Drive as well, that seems to have kind of, it's almost like the energy has attracted other dark energies. Because a lot of people, even now, go there and have really, really scary nights in there. Have you ever been?
Yeah, I've been there.
I'd love to go.
Yeah, I mean, a few strange things happened, but not to the extent that you see some of the people on social media saying that stuff has happened. We experienced some doors opening, some of the light up cat walls lit up in the rooms, but then I've seen footage of cameras tipping over, and there's a classic photo of like a dark sort of entity or shadow figure coming up the stairs. The downside to that particular property is when Most Haunted went in there, they done a live Halloween thing, and it was a shambles, to be fair.
Well, Yvette was trying to wind up whatever was there, wasn't she? Which was a shame, really.
Yeah, I know there's certain things that certain programs do to get ratings, so I get that. But 30 East Drive, I would love to go there again. Definitely would. Maybe not as part of a group. I went. There was about 8 or 10 people.
Yeah.
I didn't find it particularly scary, but it's such a fascinating place, and like you say, it's one of the main sort of poltergeist locations in the UK. It's definitely interesting. Interesting place.
It really is. Well, I think I'm going to let you both have a rest now, because I have grilled you for quite a long time now, but it's been so interesting. I've really, really enjoyed it, actually, and I'd really like to chat to you again in the future, if that's okay.
Yeah, anytime.
Most definitely. You have to come on and talk about your experiences on our podcast. So.
Oh, that would be lovely. I'm afraid, you might regret that, because once I get talking, that's it. You might have to edit me out.
That's good. No, that's good. That's good.
So before we go, can one of you or both of you tell the listeners where can we find your podcast and any other Facebook pages, YouTube, things like that? Where do we find Pursuit of the Paranormal?
Yeah, well, the website is pursuitoftheparanormal.co.uk. You can listen to the episodes on there, or you can find us on any of the podcast platforms. We're on most of them: Apple, Spotify, Google. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us. Like I say, we've got Facebook. Just go facebook.com/Pursuit of the Paranormal, and it's the same on Instagram as well. So just send us a message, whatever, get in touch, like our page, and we'll be there.
Brilliant. And can you give us any sneak previews about what's coming up in the future?
Yeah, so we've got an episode coming up where we speak to a gentleman called James Gilliland. another kind of ranch place called the Isetti Ranch in America, and it's at the base of a mountain called Mount Adams, and mysterious lights and craft come out and have been videoed multiple times, been broadcast on TV. Lots of strange things happening, so we're just organising a convenient date and time to speak to him, to talk about all the stuff that's going on there. So yeah, we've also got updates on paranormal things that are going on with my team in Oxfordshire that I gave an update about yesterday, so we're going to be following that through. Ash has got some UFO related activities coming up soon as well from one of the other pages that he runs, so we've got loads coming up that we will share.
Okay, that's fantastic. And yeah, just tell us quickly about the UFO minicon, Ash.
Yeah, so the UFO Identified.co.uk is my website that I've been running for around 18 months. We built up quite a community in the northwest of England. So with obviously COVID restrictions, we thought we'd put on a live night, and that's snowballed into a full-day UFO conference. We've got 4 speakers, we've got a bar, we've got stalls, we've got tables, we've got book signings, we've got raffles, and we've got food being provided, and there's limited tickets left. That's on the 9th of October in Preston. So if anyone's interested in getting a ticket, it's www.ufoidentified.co.uk/minicon, and tickets are £15. That's an all-day conference in Preston.
Brilliant. It's a shame I live in the south. Oh, well. Well, thank you so much. And I really hope to speak to you both again. And take care. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.